Hello and welcome to the very first video on the Poetry channel. My name is Lena Firestone. My hope for this channel is that it will become a place where poets of all stripes can come together and gather and share in their love of poetry. And I will be posting videos as well as my friends and colleagues and some of the writers that I admire the most. So today I'm going to begin with a writing exercise that looks at memory and perspective. And this exercise actually has two parts. So what I'll do is I'll explain the first part and then I'll give you a little bit of time where you can pause the video so you can write at your own pace. And then when you've completed the first part and you're ready to go on to the second part, you can press play and I'll explain the second part of the exercise. So to begin with, you want to grab a pen and paper or your laptop, your note section of your iPhone, whatever kind of writing utensils you like to use. And I want you to think back to a memory that's very vivid to you from your childhood. It doesn't need to be a memory where anything very dramatic or particularly life-changing or interesting happens, but just something that is very vivid and still stands out in your mind in terms of the images especially, so that the sensory details are still very alive in your imagination. You can almost see and smell and touch and taste and feel what it was like to be in that moment. So once you've thought about that moment and kind of gotten yourself in that place again, I want you to write 10 lines of poetry or prose if you want to just free write about that memory, but write it from the perspective of your childhood self. So imagine that you're completely back in that moment. And instead of focusing on trying to tell a story or making a narrative or explaining the backstory of it or anything like that, just focus on being back in that moment and describing the images, the sensory details, and the emotion. So when you're ready, begin. Alright, so now for part 2 of this exercise, I want you to continue to work with the same memory, but this time I want you to write 10 lines from your current adult perspective, looking back on that memory from where you are now, and address the lines of poetry to your child self. So what would you like to say to the child who spoke in the previous lines that you wrote? What would you like to say? So you're looking at the same experience, but you're taking what Louise Glück would call a different angle on the experience. When you're ready, begin part 2. So that's it for part 2 of this exercise. Please let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. You can also type up your poems and paste them there. I personally think it can be interesting to think about, when we write from memory, the point of view or perspective that we're going to take on it. Not just are we going to write from our own first person point of view, but where in terms of time in relation to the memory we position ourselves when we write the poem, because there's a lot you can get from the immediacy of writing as though you're in that moment, and there's also a lot that you can get from taking a step back and having the knowledge or wisdom of rumination by looking at the event from a further off distance. So with that, thank you so much for watching this exercise, and I'll be posting another one next week.